I have 2 or 3 comments.
Okay, go ahead, Ned.
On the May 21,
Yep.
page 2, right at the very top, that first line, I think we're missing a word. Planning Commission a few weeks ago,
Okay.
and
Very
asked
good.
for a conditional use. That's as far as I read through the minutes. No, not really.
well, we won't ask for more input for you for this one.
Okay, at page 4, at the very last line, the period's out of place.
Yes, it is.
And on the next page 5, Travis asked a question in the third little paragraph, and I think there was supposed to be an answer there.
It didn't come until much later in the meeting.
Yeah. Okay.
The minutes actually reflect accurately how long it took to get the answer.
Okay. Now,
Otherwise,
I have one question right in the middle of the page where it says Mr. Woodbury asked if staff has heard feedback from residents in the Applegate condos. It said that Mr. Markham said they have received some. I think that should be Jared.
Probably.
Not that I sound like you, but you know.
We'll fix it.
I don't think I would have answered that, Jared. I think that would have been directed towards staff, correct?
I think you're right. Yeah, we probably just.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't notice.
Okay. We should change that instead of Mr. Markham to Mr. Hall, if you would, please.
We'll get it fixed.
That's the only thing that I saw.
yeah, they look great. They look great.
Yeah, that was quite a meeting. That was a lot of typing, and you know what? I do appreciate the editing too. You make me look a lot better by eliminating some of my stupid comments. So yeah.
Well, if they eliminated all my stupid comments, there wouldn't be any in there. So
Well, you know, you are briefly mentioned here and there.
yeah. So thanks for keeping a few in.
All right. Well, with that, we'll move to conflict of interest then. Anyone have any issues with anything on the agenda tonight?
No.
Okay, yeah, it looked pretty simple. Findings of fact. We have one finding of fact, and that looked just fine to me.
Yep.
No issues? Okay, great. All right, well, the conditional use agenda items then, another one of our lovely internet car sales items, Car Deal LLC. Who's going to be presenting that?
That's me.
All right.
Don't I come back with a roaring?
Yeah, they give you the big ones, don't they?
Yeah.
All right.
So yeah, this is Car Deal LLC. They had originally applied way back in like February, but due to COVID, they didn't feel comfortable going forward with it up until
That's
this time.
close.
Right now they do operate with a my goodness, I can't speak, with an auto repair dealer, as an auto repair shop as well, and they would like to expand that to do auto sales. So this is a 2,700 square foot unit. Site plan, as you noticed in the application, there's not much there. The floor plan also not much there, unfortunately. So I'll go over the site plan just real quickly. The accesses are from 45th and 160 West. And I don't know if you've seen for that part of 45th, but it needs some work. So we are requiring landscaping improvements there along 45th. The parking, additionally, a large portion of it is not paved, and what was proposed on the site plan wasn't really adequate. So I'm requiring that they provide a full site plan. They have some work to do on our part to get this into something that we could really enforce. Let's see. Floor plan, largely open. There's not a lot to it. That's really it. As you guys you probably noticed in the staff report, I changed. We had talked about last year, I think, moving it to property owner responsibilities and applicant responsibilities. So I have done that. So it only looks like there's only 2 conditions, but there's a lot of sub conditions. That's something that I feel like this one was a good one to test on, because there are stuff that the property owner will have to take care of before we can probably move forward with providing him with a business license. So,
it seems like there's a lot of stuff that needs to be done. Is it premature for these guys to come to us?
No. Well,
Okay.
they've submitted the information that's required, and I've been able to make an analysis from that. And the conditions, I believe, the conditions wouldn't change regardless. It's really, at this point, the conditions are what the conditions are, and that's what they're going to have to comply with if you guys decide to move forward with it. It has been kind of a struggle to work with the applicant, to get the applicant to meet with me and get adequate plans. But at this point, this is, I think, the best that I'm going to get at this point.
Is this from enforcement, or is this because they actually came to you?
Enforcement.
It's what it felt like.
And this is item number 4. I'm sorry, guys, I had computer problems.
No,
yes.
Lisa,
Welcome,
thanks
Lisa.
for joining us.
So are we talking about item number 4, the car deal?
Yes.
And okay, so what you're expressing is exactly what I felt like. There's a lot missing here.
There is quite a bit missing, and this is the only way I know how. This is the best way to move forward, I think, is by having you as the land use authority make the decision to come down and say, you shall do this, and at that point, then they have to comply. And
Because it sounds to me like you're being politically correct, Zachary, so I want to ask questions before we get in public real quick.
Sure.
With Phil and Mr. Woodbury, people who know this better than I. So then if there's a lot missing, we might not be approving this because, it doesn't really talk about what they're selling, how they're selling it, the kinds of sales. I don't know. Talk to me, Mark and guys.
No, there does seem to be a lot missing, and that's why I asked if it's premature for this to come here.
Like even the drawing of the building, I was like, oh, well, great. Tells me you have a building, but doesn't even, don't think it's accurate, the drawing. It's just, and the phone number on the drawing and the signature is of somebody that's on the Alfredo Rodriguez, whose number and initials are on the drawing. But the landowner is Randy Gordon and the applicant is Mr. Rainey. It's confusing.
the site plan was obtained, from what I understand, the site plan was obtained from Randy Gordon. What I understand, and this is just speculative at this point, is that Randy Gordon obtained that site plan from that gentleman whose name was on it before. That's what I would assume. But so what I'd really mention here is that, again, it's not necessarily what type of cars he sells and all that. It's that he's asking to sell cars. And that's the land use authority's responsibility at this point to approve the conditional use. Is that's what we have going forward. That's kind of where I'm at. So
Questions
these
about,
go ahead. Sorry, I didn't hear you.
sorry, but aren't there still questions around number of parking slots available? And there's just a lot of, help me out, guys. What else am I missing? Travis and Phil and Maren, what else? But wasn't there a lot of holes in this one?
Yeah, well, you know how I feel about these types of uses in general. They are permitted, but yeah, we generally have a more complete application, and I'm disappointed in the information provided. Let me put it that way.
Then maybe I should stop struggling and just assume we'll have more discussions later. Is that the point?
it's worth pursuing that avenue, I think. But yeah, I share your concern, Lisa.
Yeah, I agree. And actually, I went back to the electronic version because I was missing a couple of pages from my packet. And, oh, you too?
No.
I guess everybody was then.
Yeah,
Lisa was.
I'm looking at the electronic right now, and there's information about floor plans, operations, parking.
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
I'm like Phil. I feel like it's a simple one to do. I don't necessarily agree that it's always the right thing to do in terms of these, this is just another one of those, but it's not our job to say, I mean, if this falls within what's allowed, I mean, whether it's not as detailed as we'd like or not, we know what they're doing. They want to sell vehicles in a place that we've done hundreds of times similar applicants.
I will say the last thing I'll mention here is that, this is a conditional use permit application, and the state law requires conditional uses they shall be approved as long as conditions can be met to mitigate impacts.
That puts the onus on the staff and on enforcement again. So, it's a familiar refrain.
It is.
Sorry.
I was missing pages. Like now that I'm looking at the numbering of pages, so maybe that's why Lisa or other people are feeling like this application feels really incomplete, because I'm missing pages 4, 6. Like mine doesn't have it has
Only printed one side.
Yeah. So just FYI for staff that might be confused by we're confused, our packet wasn't complete.
And I realized that at 3:00 today and sent Zachary a message, and he got back to me pretty quick, but I unfortunately was doing family stuff until about, 10 minutes ago, and I haven't had a chance to look at what he sent me. So, but if the rest of you have seen it, it looks more complete than what I've seen, then maybe we're okay.
So I have a question. Since they were already selling vehicles without a permit, right, or a license, is that finable? And did they stop? Did law enforcement, the code enforcement guys, can they make them stop until they get an approved conditional use permit and business license and dealer license?
Yes.
And or can they be fined for doing that without having the proper authorizations?
Yes, Christina Klein is our code enforcement officer, and she is very active in these locations and is following up with them all the time. And she's very active working with Priscilla with business licensing as well to make sure that they're getting their business licenses.
Okay. All right. Well, we probably should move on to the next agenda item here. We'll have a lot of questions in the regular meeting for this, so let's do that if it's okay with everybody.
Sure.
Item number 5 has been removed from the agenda, Vertical Bridge Development LLC. So item 6, Youthlink Community Center at 346 East 4500 South. Susan will be doing this one. Okay.
So this one, youth organizations are permitted use, but any new primary structures in the GO zone require conditional use. So it's for the structure that this UP is required. It's for after-school program for students anticipating up to 30 students from 3 to 6 in the afternoon. Potentially adult training also from 6 to 8, Monday through Friday, and occasionally from December through May. That's a correction on your staff report. The Saturday student projects will be from December through May. The applicant sent me that correction after the packets had gone out, so that's a little change. The property is accessed through the existing business park, office business park, and it's at the back of the property. It's vacant property. Adjacent to the creek. It's surrounded on 3 sides by a residential zone. the creek, and then to the east and the south. So the east, west, and south property lines are adjacent to the residential. It meets the parking regulations. They will require, because of the size of the building, they will require a Utah landscape architect to submit the actual landscaping plans, more detailed plans.
Can you tell us why?
one thing that we
I
probably
didn't
ought to talk
understand
about-
that part.
Oh, our code requires that, anything. That's a change of any projects over 4,000 square feet require the Utah architect, landscape architect for our code. And the reason we probably have not included that with staff reports previously is this one is a little complicated with the landscaping. Part of the landscaping buffer areas require the solid masonry wall where it's adjacent to residential. So on the east side is the creek. On the west side is residential, but there is a significant change in grade. And the grade is maintained, it's stabilized because of the huge existing trees that are there. If the planning commission, well, if they were to install the solid masonry wall, it would compromise those trees, the integrity of those trees and the stability of the slope there. Today, I actually pulled a file. This property received a CUP in 2005 for an office building from Hamlet Development, but it never was built, project never was built. But during that process, they applied for a variance to not install a solid masonry wall along the west boundary line and instead install a vinyl fence. That variance was granted, and the variances stay with the property. So at this point, they would just be required to install a vinyl fence along the west property line. Now, the applicant met with the surrounding neighbors to the west and the south yesterday, so they may have a little more input as far as what they would like. But again, this is all based on code and planning commission requiring the requirements that are required. Anyway, the property, the buffer landscaping on the east side, planning commission might want to talk about that one as far as encroachment into the creek and the required 20-foot setback from Salt Lake County flood control and how to transition that area. Whether a solid masonry wall is reasonable because it may compromise the integrity of the creek bank. And I think that really is all. We did get a couple more public comments received after the packets went out, so I guess I'll read those into the record. Any questions? That's kind of a
yeah, I think it would just be important to mention that variance, carries with the property. That may solve some concerns or questions right up front from the Kiko family that owns that home on top of the hill there.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I will do that.
Okay. Anything else on this agenda item?
I was just say I drove over there to look at the property and the lay of the land so that I had a good idea in my mind what the slope was like. Man, that's a beautiful property.
It is.
It's just right there on the river. It's gorgeous. I can see why the residents want to maintain what they can,
Right.
As far as grade and slope and so forth.
And I think that's why we need to be sensitive with the barrier requirements that we attach to this.
Hey, also,
I agree.
I should have mentioned this earlier. So I was curious why there isn't an existing solid wall adjacent to the creek on the previous buildings that were to the north. And based on what we can find in the files, we assume that when those buildings were previously approved 10, 20 years ago, that staff viewed the creek as the barrier or the buffer in between. So that's why there's not one. There is no solid wall along that boundary.
Aesthetically, I would agree with them.
Oh yeah, me too. It's gorgeous. It even tempted me to go get my fishing pole out of the trunk.
I drove over there also, and it is a really kind of neat piece of property, a big piece of open field in the middle of homes, which is beautiful, and the creek's beautiful. There was a cement wall barrier between the existing buildings and the property. But I could see how that back there could be an area for people to hang out that shouldn't be hanging out back there. In fact, when I was there was a bike on the ground and a backpack and I couldn't find the person. I was like, where'd you go? But what is the plan for that cement wall between the two properties? Is that part of the discussion of barriers between property, or is that for them to decide? Or
Talking the joint property between the offices.
Yeah, the offices, parking lot, then there's a 5-foot long cement wall, then the property.
That would be removed. And there's a 5-foot landscape strip on there.
Sounds like a good plan. All right.
Okay. Any other questions or clarifications? Okay. All right. Well, we'll move to Quick Quack, the car wash on 9th East at 5565 South.
Hang on a thing. Let me see if I'm.
That one I'm presenting tonight. The Quick Quack, this is a tunnel car wash, an auto wash. There's a big long, I'm sure you've seen it in your packet. There's 2 properties involved. It's the old Chase Bank that gets removed, obviously, and the car wash goes there. There's a long queue line basically from 5600 South possible, and some queuing from 900 East. Exits out of both those same ways. The real concern we have with something like this car wash is queuing for cars, and this is ideally kind of sited for that. We can handle a lot of cars in the queue, so that's important. Average time in the wash is about 3 minutes, and then there's the vacuum stations. The bulk of our concerns are pretty much addressed with the conditions. We do have an interesting situation. There's that assisted living, the retirement home, Olympus Ranch, right to the east. They are providing it ranges between 6 and 8 feet, the buffer along there. They'll plant a bunch of trees in that. But still, it's a significant thing. But it's zoning. It's CD zoning, so it's not required to buffer, but we do have at least a small buffer going on there anyway. One issue that was raised, and I'll bring it up in the meeting, I suppose, but the car care center, Fisher's Car Care Center there on 5600 South has a back lot that they access mostly from that laneway. The car wash has not been able to find, the Fishers and the car wash, they were not able to find an easement, a formal access easement or anything like that. I told Fisher's Car Care owners, the Sieberts, they'll have to figure that out and establish that they have rights there if they want to see a change to the site plan. The site plan that we have is legal. The Sieberts technically can get to that back lot through their building. They have overhead doors on both sides, so they're not completely cut off. My guess is because that you could get to it, it's on the west side of that laneway, and that's their exit out of the car wash. So you could probably leave it open for them if they're not using it too much and not cause a problem. But I'm not sure what they'll work out. We can ask the applicants if they're willing to do something like that.
Well, yeah, if it's legally described, there's not a lot that we can change.
Yeah. So
okay.
Making you aware. That's the only issue that I had come up. I didn't have any other calls on this one or public comments for the car wash.
Okay.
So.
A quick issue on page 6 at the top of findings, first paragraph, you call it a bed and breakfast.
Well, there are people who, if RVs come through there with people in the RVs that
living out of their vehicles again.
Bloody Marys and mimosas.
I'll double check with my proofreading staff and make sure that they do a better job.
Jared, I do proposals all the time for different cities, and I can't tell you how many times I have to triple, quadruple check to make sure I've got the right city names buried within the proposal. It's horrible.
Those findings are like bear traps. You can't look at them 6 times and still miss it one more time. One place where we found out what land.
Absolutely. All right. Well, we got a couple minutes left. Let's quickly hit item number 8, Van Winkle subdivision amendment.
Great. I'm taking that one. I'm not going to go too much into it. It's pretty simple. It's a 14-acre site. It's where there's a storage facility there right now, trampoline, Vasa, fitness. They just want to subdivide, create a new lot that they're going to come back with actually on the 2nd for a conditional use permit for a 7-Eleven. Pretty easy. It's a half-acre lot, CD zone. There's not a lot of development requirements there. So it's very straightforward.
7-Elevens must be making a comeback. I see a few of them under construction around. So yeah,
They're
gas
competing with
stations.
Maverick. So
I have to say, I'd hate to see 7-Elevens go because they were the first company to sponsor an American cycling team in the Tour de France.
yeah.
The 7-Eleven cycling team, Bob Roll. So.
There you go. All right. You know what? I'm going to close this pre-meeting right now. That'll give us a minute or two before we have to go into the council chambers for our main meeting, right? So everybody pick up your stuff and move to the council chambers.
no.
All right.
Hey, Travis, will you do findings of fact tonight?
I can.
Or I
Got to
can,
write them down.
wait a minute. Oh, never mind. I found mine. Thought I lost it. We just have the one tonight, don't we?
Yes.
Okay. And that's Applegate. Okay.
That's
I
the
got
one
it.
to do.
I
Okay.
did find one more thing on the minutes on page, it was on the digital one. It's on page 6 on June 4th. It says a motion was made by Scott Woodbury, forward a recommendation. There should be a 2 in there.
Okay. We'll note that, and then we won't have
Yeah.
to deal with it specifically.
Yeah.
No meeting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I couldn't find it before, and then I went to the digital one. I'm like, oh, there it is.
It's all right. We know you're slow.
Yes, I am.
All right. You know what? It's 6:30. Is everybody okay with opening the meeting up since we do it on time? All right. Well, let's do that then. I'd like to welcome everybody viewing on the internet tonight to our Zoom Planning Commission meeting. This is June 18th for the Murray City Planning Commission. And with us this evening, we have, I'm Phil Markham, the chair, Scott Woodbury, the vice chair, Travis Ney, Maren Patterson, Sue Wilson, Ned Hacker, Lisa Milkevich, and staff, we have Jared Hall, Susan Nixon, and Zach Smallwood. And let's see, I don't see our attorney representative, but he will probably be joining us shortly, Bryant Farnsworth. So with that, I'd like to go over just a couple of house rules. I'd like to welcome the public again and let you know that we will bring up the agenda items, and the staff will make a presentation to us. And then after that, the commission will have a chance to question staff if they see so fit. And then we will bring the applicant up for them to add any additional information that they see fit. And we will open after that every item for public comment tonight. Now, public comment obviously is not a verbal comment for the general public. If you have comments that you would like to have entered into the record, please use the email address at the bottom of the screen and submit those questions to the staff. They will be read into the record, and we will address those as necessary. So with that, we'll start the meeting. And the first couple of items we have this evening are business items. And number one on that is approval of minutes. We have two sets of minutes, the May 21st, 2020 meeting and the June 4th, 2020 meeting. Has everyone on the council had a chance to review those minutes?
Yes.
Yes.
We made a couple of clerical corrections in our pre-meeting, nothing of substance that would affect them at all. And so other than those clerical corrections, does anyone have anything they would like to add or change?
I actually want to interject just real quick, Mr. Chair, if I could.
Yes.
I just would like, we do have a number of applicants on the meeting this evening. So if you could, any applicant, or if you're not speaking, would you please place yourself in mute? That way we have the screen cleared for people that, for the stream, so it doesn't pop up with a bunch of different people all the time, so we can really focus on the people that are actually speaking. So if you wouldn't mind putting yourselves in mute if you're not speaking, that would be great.
The video, yeah, okay. Yep. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Zach. All right.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion that the Plan Commission approve the meeting minutes from May 21, 2020, and meeting minutes from June 4th, 2020, with the minor corrections that we talked to in our pre-meeting.
I'll second.
And I was not looking. Who was the second?
It's me, Phil. Scott.
Thank you, Scott. Sorry, didn't recognize your voice there right away. You know, writing, listening.
We've only been on the council for 9 years together.
Yes,
okay.
you are exactly right. So I have a motion by Ned Hacker, a second by Scott Woodbury to approve the minutes from the Planning Commission meeting on May 21st, 2020 and June 4th, 2020. Those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, that carries unanimously. So we will move on next to conflict of interest. Do any members of the commission have any conflict of interest with any of the items on the agenda this evening?
No.
No.
Okay, all right, no issues there. Item number 3 is approval of findings of fact. We have one finding of fact this evening. It is for Applegate PUD subdivision. And were there any questions or any need for discussion on this? Okay, if not, I'm open to a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the findings of fact for a conditional use permit to Fieldstone Construction and Management Services for a planned unit development subdivision of 48 townhomes to be constructed in 2 phases on property located at approximately 780 West Applegate Drive.
Okay.
Can I second the motion?
Thank you, Lisa. I have a motion by Sue Wilson and a second by Lisa Milkevich to approve the finding of fact for Fieldstone Construction and Management Services. Those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, that carries unanimously. All right, with that, we will get into the meat of our agenda this evening, and that will consist of a few conditional use permits. The first one is item number 4, and that is Car Deal LLC at 139 West, 4500 South, unit number 22. And Zach will be presenting this to us this evening.
Great. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Yeah, item number 4 is Car Deal. Like you said, this is a conditional use permit for an auto sales business. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry. So is this the applicant?
Yes.
Okay. Give me just one moment. What we're going to do is we're going to be doing a presentation, and then the commission will ask you any questions. Okay?
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Hold on just 1 minute. All right. So this is an application for a conditional use permit for auto sales at 139 West, 4500 South, unit number 22. It's located approximately here. That's the location of the unit. It's right on 4500 South, the frontage road there. This is 160 West. It's not working. 160 West along here. Fire Clay is just to the north, if you're familiar with that. It is in the MG zone, which auto sales businesses are allowed subject to conditional use permit approval. And now my computer has frozen. Oh, wow, it really freaked out. Sorry, guys. Hold on one sec.
Would it help to have Jared or Susan interject?
Yeah, Jared, would you mind? Can you just share your screen? And just go to the site plan for me.
Oh, sorry. What is it?
That's okay. I'm still working on sorry, there's technical difficulties. So as you can see, the 4500 South frontage right there at the top of your screen with the proposed 4 parking spots. and the site plan, and shop 22 there on the south side. Jared, if you'd go to the next slide, please. And then this is the floor plan we received that shows the inside, has a roll-up door and a man door with an office and a sink.
Yes.
Jared, if you could go to the next. Here are a few photos that I took while I was out there. The top left is the kind of rear entrance to the industrial complex. The top right is the area that faces 4500 South. And then your bottom middle, the bottom photo is directly adjacent to the unit. Jared, if you go to the next. These are the frontage pictures. On the left-hand side, you have a new RV storage area. That's kind of what was recently redeveloped, new landscaping put in, things like that. And then on the right-hand side is the subject property's frontage. So if you go to the next one, Jared. So we are recommending approval of this conditional use permit, subject to a few conditions. We have two: that the property owner will need to be in contact with us to work on the landscaping plan and a parking plan, which includes repaving the area. It's in pretty poor condition at this point. The applicant, we are saying, we're recommending that no more than 5 vehicles on site for sale at any one time. For sale vehicles are only allowed in striped parking stalls only. Any interior construction requires a building permit, and the applicant must maintain a motor vehicles dealer license and must obtain a Murray City business license prior to selling vehicles. What questions can I answer for you guys?
Yes.
Okay. After all this, do I have to send you with the email or bring it there?
We'll address that in just a minute, sir. So if you'll bear with us for just a moment. Any questions from commission members for staff concerning this item? Okay. If not,
No, thank you.
then sir, the applicant, if you would introduce yourself and give us your name and address for the record, please.
Sehruz Rain and 139 West 4500 South, Unit 22, Maury, Utah 84107.
Okay. All right. And is there anything that you would like to add to the presentation in order to educate us tonight, sir?
No, thank you so much.
Okay. Any questions from commission members for the applicant?
No, not yet. No, thanks.
Okay. All right. Well, with that, again, do we have anything that you would like to ask for staff concerning this? We discussed this prior in the pre-meeting a little bit, and so it's up to commission members to bring anything up that they would like to have clarified or emphasized, or I am open for a motion as well. Oh, we did not do public comment.
Not yet.
And I caught myself before I was reminded of that. So with that, I would like to open this agenda item up for public comment. If there is anyone watching tonight, listening in, that would like to offer comment, we will take a couple of minutes. We'll just wait and see if we get some emails to staff concerning this agenda item. So with that, we'll take a couple of minutes.
Mr. Chairman, as we're waiting for the public comment, I have a question more procedural for Jared, for staff, and Zach. And Susan,
Please.
since we changed the conditions and we broke them down, traditionally this would have been about 9 separate conditions, but now that we've broken, is it really just 2 conditions, or is it 2 with sub conditions? Just for the motion, how would you like that to be said?
I'll let Jared correct me if I'm wrong, but I just had planned for the 2 conditions.
Okay.
They're still going to be there.
Yeah.
There's still conditions. It's just one is applied to the applicant and one is applied to the property owner.
No, I appreciate you doing this because it certainly helps to clear up a lot of the questions that we've had and the confusions we've had in the past with similar type applications. Just wanted to make sure that we're not like 1 A and B, 2 A through G. Just wanted to get it right for you.
Yeah, no, I think just 1 and 2 is fine because it would include all of them.
Thank you.
And Mr. Chair, just point of order, just I'm not sure if we've asked the applicant if he understands the conditions and can apply that. You got what I mean? Can fulfill.
Yes, I will ask that. And you know what? I'm going to close the public comment period and bring this back up to the commission. But I would like to ask the applicant, sir, do you understand the 2 conditions associated with the application and all of the items that fall under those? And can you meet all of those conditions associated with this?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thank you, Lisa. I appreciate that. All right. Well, with that, unless we have additional questions or concerns, I am open to a motion at this time.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we approve a conditional use permit to allow the operation of a vehicle sales business at the property addressed 139 West, 4500 South, Unit 22, subject to conditions 1 and 2.
Thank you.
I'll second the motion.
I'll second.
All right. Ned beat you to it.
We get 2 of those. Second.
All right. So I have a motion by Scott Woodbury, a second by Ned Hacker to approve a conditional use permit to allow vehicle sales within the MG zone on the property located at 139 West, 4500 South, Unit 22, subject to conditions 1 and 2 as stated in the application before us this evening. Please call for a vote.
Mr. Woodbury,
Yes.
Mr. Hacker,
Yes.
Patterson,
Yes.
Ms. Wilson,
Yes.
Mr. Nay,
Yes.
Ms. Milkevich,
Yes.
and Mr. Markham.
Yes.
Thank you.
Sir, good luck with your business. We hope that it works out well, and please don't hesitate to contact staff to make sure that you're clear on everything regarding this matter. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it for everything.
Good luck. All right. With that, we'll move back to the agenda. And item number 5, Vertical Bridge Development LLC, has been removed from the agenda this evening. So we'll move to item number 6, and that is Youthlink Community Center seeking a conditional use permit for a new office and community building at 346 East, 4500 South. Susan will present this to us.
Thank you. Okay, this application for Youthlink Community Center was made on by Shannon Moss, and it is for a youth community. Oh, that didn't work.
Sorry, give me 1 second. I'll bring it back up and I'll just do it. Sorry. I thought we were doing something different. I was out of the loop.
Jared, I thought we all were, but it's not seeming to cooperate here.
I apologize, but that's cool. I've got it. Okay. There you go. Wait. Okay. There you go. Just give me the high sign when you're ready to find me move it.
Okay, I'm going to close mine. Hold on.
I'll be quiet.
Now I'm not seeing anything here.
Can everybody see the screen?
Yes.
You can see that. Okay. Susan's not for some reason give us one.
Okay. Well, Jared's going to get to go. Okay. All right. So the property is located in our general office zone, lot 346 East, 4500 South. Go the next one, Jared. They are proposing to construct a new 7,300 square foot office building located in the GO zone. This is a site plan. It's on about 0.97 acres. Buildings located in the GO zone, any new primary buildings do require a conditional use from the Planning Commission. Youth organizations, however, are permitted use, so the conditional use is for the building itself. The property fronts off of 4500 South, which is a major arterial street and is controlled by UDOT. We do not have any say on that. This project did not warrant any kind of a traffic study. Access to the proposed site is through the existing office building off of 4500 South. So you can go to the next one, Jared, I think. This is a little bit better view of it. So the north top of this building would be to the northwest entrance to the building. Their building consists of office use, which would staff 14 staff on site. It would be from 9 to 5. The after-school program for the students would be from 3 to 6, and then there is possibly also an adult training program from 6 to 8. That would be Monday through Friday. The layout of the building, as you can see, is basically office uses, conference rooms, lobbies, kitchens, break room, etc. I'm going to go to the next one. Based on the net square usable square footage for this proposal, it's about 5,100 square feet, which equates to a minimum requirement of 21 parking stalls. The applicant is proposing 23 parking stalls, so they do actually exceed the minimum requirement. These are some elevations of the property, as you can see, on all 4 sides. I'll go to the next one, Jared. And these are the renderings of the property. The colors are actually very consistent. This area with the green and the browns. So you can see this area. The property is really beautiful. It's serene. It's got a lot of vegetation and very mature trees. Why don't you go to the next one, Jared? And there's another rendering of the building. Next. This view is, you're standing in the existing parking lot of the office building and you're looking into the site by way of an entrance where there's an existing solid block wall, but there is an existing entrance. And you can see, so this is the west property line, there is heavy vegetation with extreme large mature trees and a very steep slope at this location also. And this is our little view slide of the west property. The trees are large, very mature. I did receive some input from the applicant and the adjacent property owner who has recently acquired the property from their family. It's been in the family for many years. And they have indicated that when they did acquire this by way of inheritance, they had an arborist come and review their existing vegetation and has basically indicated to them that the existing mature trees are critical to maintaining the stability of the slope at this location. There's a difference in elevation of 10 to 12 feet. And so that could be an item for discussion as far as buffering and landscaping. Go to the next one, Jared. This is looking to the south. There is an existing solid block wall at the south property line that is owned by the adjacent property owner to the south. And then the next one. And this is looking to the east where you can see the big Cottonwood Creek, there where the big trees are. This is a beautiful serene area. We are viewing this as creek is the buffer, not necessarily the residential area to the east. Okay, go to the next one. Oh, sorry, Jared, back up a little bit. You'll note on this that there is the floodplain area. Thank you, Jared. Is right. They have delineated that. That is critical. The building is located just outside of that. So any structures would not be allowed within that floodplain area. And so they have met that requirement. Require by Salt Lake County, and they have to be audited engineers, etc. I've outlined those requirements in the conditions of approval. There will be some Saturday classes held by that the students would be attending. That would be for the months of December through May, and that would only be for a couple of hours. That's typically 9 to 5 for office staff, and then the program itself is 3 to 6. Okay, go to the next one, Jared. In 2005, maybe let's go back to one of the site plans, Jared, sorry. In 2000, this property received a conditional use permit from Hamlet Development for a 2-story office building. And in that process of doing that, they applied for a variance to not install the required solid masonry wall along the west property line that Jared's pointing out there. The building was not built, obviously, because it's vacant property, but variances remain with the property. So we just recently discovered this today, as a matter of fact, that the variance was approved by the Board of Adjustments in 2005 to not install the required solid masonry wall along the west property line, but rather to install a vinyl fence 6 feet in height. If the applicants wish to apply for another variance, possibly to not install any wall at all, they would have to apply for a variance for that, or any of the requirements, a variance for any of the requirements that they feel maybe, and the Planning Commission that they feel may not work with the existing vegetation and trees.
Susan?
Yes.
Can I ask you a question on that? Is that okay, Phil?
Absolutely.
I totally respect the decisions that were made in 2005 and support them. I just would like, for education purposes, to understand, was there a concern with more like a masonry wall affecting the stability of the slope, and that's why it was suggested less aggressive wall, or what was the discussion around it?
That was exactly what it was. They were worried about the solid masonry wall. The location actually would require eliminating some of those mature trees, and would compromise the integrity of the steep slope. So based upon those two issues, the variance was granted. Good question. I neglected to add that.
So Tim, just for clarification then, does the mature trees encroach on the property that's being purchased, and that's why it might be an issue? Or is it within the property lines?
Some of them, as you can see on the site plan, Jeremy pointed those out. Yeah, some of them, the large ones, are really, truly on the property line. And we're just calling out a couple of the large trees on this site plan, but if you've been over to that property, it is extremely heavy vegetation along the entire west property line. It's so thick you can't hardly see it, but it is beautiful. It is beautiful. So
I guess I was asking for the specifics in case later there is a concern that with the parking lot or the building, because of the trees in the way, we'd understand it a little more thoroughly.
Yeah, it's because of the risk of compromising the integrity of that slope if the trees are removed. And the solid wall would require that many of them be removed because of they are on the property line. It's a good question.
So Susan, I have a similar question. So does the ordinance say solid is only masonry, or can you have some other solid wall?
You could have the panels, the concrete post and panels wall.
But that's masonry.
But masonry.
Yes, that is what the code requires.
So solid's referring to the material, not necessarily that you can't see through it, because the vinyl fence you can't see through, but that's not considered solid.
Well, it's a vinyl fence would be solid, but not masonry.
Okay.
So,
Okay. But I thought the code just requires
Solid masonry.
Oh, it says mason, sorry.
Yeah, you have to have both.
Yeah, it does. It actually requires 10 feet of buffer landscaping and a solid masonry wall.
Oh, in our definition, it just said 6 foot high solid fence when construction in geo zone occurs. It didn't say masonry. At least in the one sentence I saw. Maybe it says somewhere else. Okay, I believe you. Thank you.
Can I just say one little thing about masonry walls, Susan?
Yes.
One of the things about a masonry wall, just for Lisa's clarification, is that in general terms, they require a dug footing and rebar before you set the block. And so that would be really disruptive to the trees and things that are growing there. Whereas with a vinyl fence, you're just digging post holes and cementing those in. And so it's not nearly as invasive as a masonry wall would be. And I'm sure that's their concern, is all of the ground disruption that would take place with a masonry wall.
Thank you, Sue. That is absolutely correct.
Actually, since we're talking about it, so if I look at that far corner, it looks like there's up to 4 feet of land disturbance, for the parking. And is there a proposal for some sort of retaining wall, or what are they doing there?
That's a good question. In the fact that they are in excess of the required parking stalls, they've shown 23. They're only required to have 21. Those 2 that are actually encroaching there could be eliminated, or
should be eliminated,
or they could retain, in that area. They could retain the at that location, just along that area.
There's those 2 possibilities, and sorry, I'm going to just jump in for 1 second if I can. You could you could eliminate those and still meet the parking requirements, or if those have to go in, there is a small retaining wall there, but it's nothing like the 8 or 9 footer that would have to go here and the disruption that would be. So it's probably still okay, but maybe not necessary. And I mean, for my part, I would probably advise saying that those aren't really necessary and could be eliminated from the site plan. And then that slope can remain undisturbed completely. So.
Thanks,
So previously the commission gave a variance to a different project.
Yes.
In which case the new applicant could do the same thing. And if the planning commission gave that variance, a vinyl fence would be considerably less expensive, I would imagine, than a masonry wall.
Absolutely.
So that would be a good thing for the applicant and the property owner to the west.
Well, and I imagine too, we'll hear from the applicant a bit, but there might, we've said that the trees are essential to maintain the stability of the slope, but is it stable? Are there any concerns with the slope not being stable? Any of the trees aging, and then once they've aged, the slope becomes unstable, or any concerns with the parking lot butting up to that slope?
Well, based on the information we've received, I think it is stable. It's been there for a long time, and as long as we don't disturb it, I would think it would continue.
It's the root structures that provide the stability. So.
Right.
Well, then I guess also we're not doing anything that would restrict any changes that need to occur at any time if it became unstable. So we're okay, right?
Yeah, that's right. So. And Susan and I talked about this a little bit looking at the project the other day, and I'm not an arborist, but this is an example, a rare example of a truly native slope. Those cottonwoods and elms and things that are holding things in place there are, using the Star Wars word, and I can't get it out of my head, there are younglings growing up underneath all of it. There's a full thicket underneath it that will take the place of those trees when they're older. It's in its natural state. It should be all right if things go well, and you never can plan for everything. But that can also, the other thing that Susan and I were talking about is, as we mentioned before, this is going to require, one of the conditions that she placed in the conditions of approval, or the recommended conditions, is a landscape plan, a formal landscape plan by a Utah licensed landscape architect. And that's for a couple of reasons, 3 of them really. 1, because the code requires it, as we pointed out, because the project's large enough. 2, because that landscape architect will have access to arborists and that kind of information to know what ought to happen here, and could make that recommendation about these parking spaces, whether they should be kept or removed, and if that has a serious impact. And also because we have this east property line where this large open area that they want to maintain and that they need to maintain because of the floodplain gives way to that natural slope down to Big Cottonwood Creek and the riparian vegetation along here. That landscape architect's advice on how to go from more formal landscaping like lawn that they might want to have in here to that natural vegetation without having it be a problem we need that kind of a plan and that kind of person's expertise.
And that will be approved by staff, correct?
Yeah, we would do that for the building permit. We love to see them for these kind of applications, but as we talked about with the previous kind of proposals, sometimes they need a kind of a better assurance that'll be an expensive plan to put together and assurance that the project is all right before they spend that kind of money. But this is a fairly good. I don't want to sound like we're downing this site plan and the things that have been tagged here. They've surveyed the trees and located all of them. It's really not a bad plan. We just want a landscape architect to take a look at it and make sure we're doing the right thing with the formal landscaping that goes in.
I agree. All right. Any other questions from commission members concerning this before we hear from the applicant?
Can I just make a general comment?
Absolutely.
So we're anticipating that the majority of the people that are going to be using this site are going to be walking from James E. Moss Elementary and then obviously the junior high school. That sidewalk that presents to the building really is coming from the middle of a parking lot. It seems pretty worthless. So just my general critique of site plans in general, we ought to actually consider incorporating ways for the public to get onto a piece of property without an automobile and being able to walk into the property without an automobile, because here they're walking through parking lots before they're ever presented with a sidewalk.
It's a good comment.
Well, and I think they're probably just thinking that it's hardscape. So, what's black hardscape as opposed to concrete sidewalk hardscape? That's just my logic, but I understand your point completely.
And when it's a good comment. When this project was put together, that kind of the thought to interior pedestrian pathways was probably not given to it like it could have been or should have been. And it would be great if we could have that kind of connection. So if nothing else, it's good to point out that these kind of things matter when we ask for pedestrian plans for new projects that are large sites. It's for a reason, because in the future, it sometimes matters. It's a good call.
Well, and even for such, this is something that would benefit the community and a great spot for it, but it might not be ideal for fifth graders to be walking to with the current traffic patterns.
Well, and we're not to the public comment portion yet, but I had a call this afternoon. Susan was tramping around for another time up at the project at the moment, getting a feel for the land again. But I had a call from a neighbor who expressed that exact concern. So if it's a bunch of kids walking to this, some of that walk, it's not real walkable. It's not ideal for kids to be walking to because it is a big parking lot. On the plus side, it's not a super busy parking lot, at least not on the east side. The west side, the Atwood side is maybe a little busier, but it's not too bad. It's an office complex there's not like drive-through restaurants to have to navigate in here or anything like that. But still, 4500 South is a harsh environment. The land in between is not as walkable as it could be, but we're doing the best we can on a trajectory to try to make that better as time goes forward.
Like Atwood, we don't have good sidewalks up Atwood, which the kids from the junior high will most likely be taking.
Yeah, absolutely true. She mentioned that. It's a concern. My assumption, and maybe the applicants can speak to this too, is that while they hope that some of the kids will be walking, or lots of the kids will be walking, there'll be a fair amount of drop off as well, just because of the distance and that sort of harsh between. It
really isn't adjacent to a school in particular, so I do believe there's going to be the majority of things are going to be drop off. Okay. Any other questions or comments from commission members?
Hey, Phil, clarify just so we're all gotten a little convoluted here. So to clarify, based on having found the variance that was approved back in 2005, what is currently required along the west property line would be the vinyl fence and buffer landscaping. The existing, if the planning commission wishes to impose the solid masonry wall along the side, there would be, at the south property line, there would be a new buffer wall adjacent to the existing solid buffer wall. And then as far as the east side, the previous buildings to the north, there is no fencing at all. And so, like I said, the staff previously, I believe, viewed this property as not necessarily adjacent to residential because of the creek, because there is no water along there or fence.
A natural barrier between the property and the residential area.
Correct. Yes. So if the planning commission chooses to continue that, then the wall would not be required, but that would be to how you would like to apply that.
Okay.
We did give notices. I did receive notices to surrounding residents. We did, as Jared said, did get some input, and I do have a couple new comments that were submitted today.
Okay.
So,
We'll read those in then when we go to public comment here in a moment. If it's all right, I would like to ask the applicant if they are present and if they would unmute their mic and indicate their presence.
Hi, I'm Shannon. I'm the one who applied here. I think we also have our architect that's listening in, our contractor, and our engineering firm as well. So we're kind of all here to answer any questions you guys have.
Okay. Well, I would like let's consider you the official representative.
Okay.
If you would give your full name and address for the record, please, and then provide any information that you think would be helpful that would be in addition to the staff presentation.
Okay, so Shannon Moss, our current address, are you on our current address or the address of this property?
Whichever you would like.
Our current address is 1166 Brickyard Plaza or Brickyard Road, Salt Lake City, Utah, 84106.
Okay. Is there anything, you've heard the comments obviously, and that is there anything that you would like to add to the comments that have been made by staff or questions from commission members concerning this application?
Yeah, so yesterday, myself and our executive director met with our neighbors to the west of us and the neighbors to the south of us to address some of their concerns. We want to be good neighbors. We want to be a part of this community. And so we want to make sure that we're starting off on the right foot. So we looked at it from our land, and then we actually walked up to both of each of their lands. And it is very true that if we take those trees down, a large majority of their land could potentially fall away. And as good neighbors, we don't really want to do that for them. I mean, yes, there also is a cost factor for the wall as well. But beyond that, the reason why we love this property is because of all the mature vegetation. It brings everything so nicely. And so anything that we can do to preserve what's naturally there is our goal. We don't want to tear it all down and have nothing. So if we can at all avoid the masonry wall, we would love that. Yeah.
Okay. And you, just to make sure, you have seen the 9 conditions associated with this that have been added by staff, and are you able to comply with those?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I have a question for you concerning the general philosophy of the school and so forth. Is this? It really doesn't seem to me to be a drop-in program per se. These kids would be, officially associated with the program, and they're like scheduled to come in and so forth. Is that correct?
Correct. So I'll just kind of give you a little brief synopsis of Youthlink as a whole. So we have 6 core programs. Our largest program, what people know us for is, mostly know us for, is our service year program. So students sign up to go on a capstone international trip to one of the 8 countries that we travel to. And in order for them to be able to travel, they have to complete 60 hours of local service prior to traveling. So our goal in that is that international travel is wonderful and great, and it's wonderful for them to learn how to be a global citizen. But what's really most impactful is what they do here locally in their own communities. We can serve locally day after day, year after year. Typically, international travel is financially cumbersome and isn't something that people can do on a consistent basis. But we can serve locally, and that's what we're hoping to achieve with our what we call our service year students. So as part of that, we offer a local service program, which is what we call Real Life. So that's our after school program. We currently run that in 12 other centers throughout the valley. a lot in South Salt Lake. We work with Promise South Salt Lake, Asian Association of Utah. We're at Mill Creek Elementary, Sunnyvale Neighborhood Center. We want to take our program and help the residents of Murray City as well. So we've been working with Jennifer Covington, trying to figure out how we can bring the Murray School District also involved in this. So we have a couple different ideas that we're still kind of mulling around, trying to figure out what the best way is. Part of that might also look like us going into other schools like Parkside or Hillcrest, as well as this site here. So in order for students to be a part of our real life program, they do have to have their parents' permission. It's not something that they can just kind of show up for typically. Our largest site, I would imagine, would maybe have 30 students, but it would be something that they would need to be required to have their parents' permission for. So yeah, it would, I don't know that there's going to be a lot of foot traffic coming in.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to clarify for those watching that it's not like a Boys and Girls Club model where the kids just drop in and stay as long as they want and then leave, and they're constantly coming and going and so forth.
No, and this also is a program that is, we do offer incentives for students with good behavior, but this is absolutely a voluntary program. So if students aren't following by our guidelines, they will be dismissed from the program. So I know that has been a concern from some residents close by of, will they jump fences or will they kind of cause disruption after they're done with the program? But if that were to happen, we were to know about it, they would be dismissed from our program.
Okay. All right. And any other questions from commission members for the applicant right now?
Course, I
Can you speak to the?
Go ahead, Travis.
I was just curious if you could speak to the parent programs that you're also offering.
So this is going to be new for us. This is all brand new. The parent part is new for us. So our real life program is mostly refugee and immigrant status students. What we want to envision is that as parents pick up their students, that we'll have a computer lab upstairs that we can offer them ways that they can do some on the job, some job training, resume building, some English language classes. So it's all new for us. We haven't developed that program yet, but that's what we would like to do in addition to the after school program.
Okay. And Lisa, did you have a comment, please?
I might have multiple, but I'd like to start
Please.
with, it sounds exciting. You listed the service year program. You said you had 6 core programs. What are the other 5?
Okay, so service year, then real life. We have a global community service program. So that's basically similar to our service year program, but with college students. It has a little bit more of an academic focus. So the professor who is responsible is the one who develops our content, but we follow the same guidelines that we use with our in-country coordinators and the model of service that we provide internationally. The next one we have it's called the Local Service Directory. So it's just an online platform that we help connect students and other nonprofit organizations to connect so that students know where they even can volunteer. It's sometimes difficult for high school students to find places that they can volunteer within their community. So this is just an online platform of a way that they can find all those. And then so we have our Young Humanitarian Award program. So this is also it's the state's largest service scholarship, where we provide $22,000 worth of scholarships for service-minded students, high school and college students. So we have 2 different tracks, one for our high school students, one for college students. The largest award is $5,000, and then there's a $5,000 winner, a $3,000 winner, and 3 $1,000 winners in the high school category and the college category. Currently, right now, we also partner with the University of Utah, who has been matching those for university students. They've been matching our scholarship awards. So it's just incredible to watch the amazing things that the young people in our community are doing to help the the people around them. And our last program is a brand new program that we're just launching. We're in beta testing mode right now. It's called Youthlink at Home, and it's just a virtual volunteering program. So last year, our students that were signed up to travel internationally, we had to postpone our trips, obviously, because of COVID. And but students still wanted to be able to volunteer, and so we started having them volunteer virtually. And we're growing that program. We're providing some online tutoring and also some online classes. So cooking classes, art classes, yoga classes, just a variety of different things that our students are do well and that they are offering that platform online.
Okay.
It's all 6 of them.
Thank you very much.
The population you serve, the majority of the people you serve, I'm sure there's a variety of people.
Each one of them does it a little different. Our service year population tends to be high school, college students.
Low income, middle income, across the gamut.
Mostly middle income, but they don't have to be. All students can fundraise all of their trips. So, but I would say the vast majority of those are middle income. Our real life tends to be lower socioeconomic status. Our Young Humanitarian Awards can be anyone. Or yes, Young Humanitarian Award winners. Real Life at Home or Youthlink at Home, they also can be a vast majority. Right now, I would tend to say they probably lower income at this point in time.
It's great. It sounds like it serves all youth in the community. That's wonderful.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments for the applicant right now? Okay, well, with that, I'm going to open this up for public comment. And Susan, I know that we did have some comment prior to the meeting tonight, and we may have some coming in as well. So I'll turn that over to you to read anything into the record that we need to. And then while that's happening, hopefully, if there's anybody watching that wants to add something, they'll take that opportunity to do that.
Okay, Mr. Chair, could I ask another question?
Well, sure. Yeah, briefly.
It's just about the south wall, the retaining wall on the south side of the property. Of course, I didn't walk over there. I looked at it from a distance, but it looks like the wall itself is a little old, maybe needing a little love. And then a cinder block wall has been built on top of the retaining wall. And then we were discussing whether we want to put that in the conditions or not. What has the discussion between the two landowners been about that wall?
Yeah, we did discuss that. We talked about some ways to potentially help that wall, stabilize that wall. Funny enough, I live in Holiday, and my neighbor's wall actually just collapsed into my yard just earlier this year. So I've been dealing with this for the last couple of months. And one of the things that the person who ended up building a new wall had said is that if the owners that were to the east of me, that's the wall that broke, if they would have done some concrete or not concrete, sorry, some cement filled big, I don't even know what you would call that, to stabilize it every 18 inches to 2 feet, that would have helped keep the wall up, because where it buckled was where it didn't have that. There wasn't any kind of supporting wall or supporting pole. So we talked a little bit about that. Yeah.
Shannon, if I could just speak to that stability of that wall. So we've looked at that wall, and we perhaps as an engineering firm don't share the same concern for the stability of that particular wall. As part of the plan, there will be no earthwork or grading changes along that south perimeter. In fact, as part of the final grading plan, we may actually add a foot or so along that wall to give it a little, have a little less prominence. But we're hoping that we could just keep that wall as is and not destabilize it, not go near it. We don't see that there's any integrity issues, and don't see any need for any revetments of any sort at the current time. And then it currently has, as you noted, a CMU wall, a masonry wall above it. So as part of the conditional use, it's our hope that we're not required to add a second wall in front of that wall to meet the city ordinance. So those are certainly the variants we'd be seeking.
And that was kind of the basis of my question a little bit. What is a property owner? Well, Mr. Chair, is it appropriate to ask if the property owner is here or the South?
Well, we'll have public comment and they're welcome to comment at that time. But I think we should move to public comment at this time, Lisa.
Okay.
And
right.
Can I interrupt just real quick, Chair?
Sure.
The last gentleman that spoke, can we just have you state your name and
David Baranowski, professional engineer with Van Borm and Frank Associates.
Thank you very much.
Our address is 181 East, 5600 South in Murray. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. With that, let's go to public comment, and we'll have an opportunity for commission members and the applicant to address anything that comes up further here. But I would like to get things moving along again. So with that, Susan, are you prepared to read into the record any comments that were previously received?
Yes, I can.
Okay, please.
So we did receive a couple that were included in the packet. The ones since that time, the first one was received from the adjacent property owner to the west, from Jason Lynn and Jen Kiko Lynn. We received and they are at, well, they don't give their address, but I know it's on Shamrock.
They live on top of the hill.
Yes, right to the west on Shamrock. We received a letter regarding this potential property because our property is directly west of the land. We own the home up on the hill at 331 East Shamrock, and it's been in my family for close to 100 years. The property, the trees, and the memories are all close to my heart, and those of us that live here adore the neighborhood. Everyone that has lived in this house in my family is deceased other than my brother and I. My husband and I were able to purchase it back into my family recently, and we are now in the process of cleaning up the yard and working towards trimming trees and getting the yard back to its original beauty. The yard was professionally landscaped over 30 years ago, but it hasn't been maintained. So now that we own it again, we're excited to have it amazing once again. First of all, I want to say that I've heard wonderful things about Youthlink. So if someone is going to be behind us, I'm grateful that it's an organization like this. And thank you for proposing to build a 2-story building, and it's not giant like the others. We appreciate that. Our main concerns are as follows. Number one, trees and root system of our trees. We've had a handful of arborists looking at our yard to preserve the tree, and they've all said, do not, capital letters, do not cut down the trees on the east side and do not cut out the roots. They're holding up the entire hill. As you can see, we're the only hill. It has branches, some branches need trimming. That's fine, but we're incredibly concerned about our trees. They're full and beautiful, as you will see, that everything is in bloom and give us protection from the upcoming parking traffic that you're about to build. They also provide established greenery for you as well. It's hard to tell by the plan the intent of the trees. We're assuming some are on our property and a few may be on the border. Can you explain the plan for the side? This is an area that's really worrying me, as well as item number 2. Number 2 is the retaining wall. Again, we're concerned that when digging starts near the trees and our hill, that we'll have an issue with the stability of the hill/property. Very concerned about this. Can you explain the plans for this side and how far back? Entrance into the parking lot. Item number 3. Will you be building a wall/fence on our side of the existing parking lot into your parking lot? The commercial side to the north of us built a short wall between their building and us. Curious if that's the plan. Item 4, more info. Curious about the hours of the program, mainly evening, ages of children, etc. Item number 5, Southside. I'm concerned for Luann Anderson, Southside. That's the adjacent property to the south, adjacent property owner to the south, and the stability of her wall, and also kids jumping over the wall as well. It's been an issue recently with trespassing on that vacant land. Item number 6, parking. I had originally heard that the majority of the parking would be shared with the next door office buildings to reduce impact on the area. Why are there so many parking spaces on this project being added right next to the residential? Seems excessive. Item number 7, lighting. Will there be lights where the parking spaces and basketball court are, or what's the plan? Keep in mind that this borders residential on 3 of the 4 sides, and none of us want bright lights, especially if there are a lot of night activities. Thank you for listening. We love our quiet and beautiful community. Please confirm that you received this. The next public comment actually was received from Salt Lake County Flood Control, and it's on behalf of Bonnie McAllister submitted it, and just says, any activity within 20 feet of the top of bank or any discharge will require a flood control permit. This will include fences or walls along the creek. Flood control will also want to ensure that access is maintained in case of an emergency and for general maintenance. And then she attached an application for the permit as well as a guide that explains the process. Thank you for reaching out to me. Let me know if there are any questions. The next public comment was received from Robert Weiss. This was received today, this evening actually. And Robert and Lauren Weiss, they are at 4638 South, 345 East. Dear Planning Commission, as a resident and property owner near the proposed Youthlink Community Center, I have some serious reservations regarding the proposed conditional use permit they have requested. I, along with several neighbors, I have spoken with, are concerned about the impacts this facility will have on traffic in our residential neighborhood. Our neighborhood said that they have been told there will be only 8 parking spaces for this building. However, in studying the site plan, there are 25 spaces shown, including those in the outdoor basketball court. In addition to this being a small office building they are proposing, it is a community center and facility for after-school programs. It will have the potential of drawing a significant amount of traffic. In addition to office and community center staff, it will draw parents dropping off and picking up youth at various times of the day and possibly on weekends. Our greatest concern is that with increased traffic, there will be a desire to create access to the parking lot directly from Atwood Boulevard. There is already significant traffic on Atwood, most of which travels above the posted 25 miles per hour residential speed limit. Allowing access to Atwood Boulevard from the office complex, of which this proposed building is a part of, must not be allowed. We must have written assurances that there will not be any additional access to Atwood Boulevard from the office complex. Thank you for your attention and consideration on this matter. And then during this presentation tonight, we have gotten a few more comments. The next one is from follow-up from Jason Lynn. And he just says, this is Jason Lynn, owner of the West Side property. Can we have the property line staked and meet with Youthlink after to discuss West Side specific landscaping in regards to our concerns with trees and tree roots? And then another one we have from Trish Empey, received during this meeting. She does not give her address. It says, her comments say, this is 1 acre parcel, has been a natural area for decades. No trees should be cut down, ! And then the last one from Jen Kickle Lynn, the property owner to the west. Murray City and Youthlink, thank you for working with us to preserve the trees, hill, and landscaping. We appreciate you. And that is all the comments for now.
Okay. I will close the public comment period at this time. I think we've had more than sufficient time for people to voice their opinions. And I would like to bring it back up to the applicant. If there are any of the items that you would care to address that have been mentioned, one that we've not talked about has been the lighting. I don't know if your architect would care to comment on the site lighting and so forth. that is something I would like to hear.
Yes, this is David Baranowski. I'm going to address the site lighting. So code minimum requires 0.5 candle or foot candles of lighting. There's not an intention to have, and after listening to the comment, there's no intention, or is it in the plans, or ever has been, to provide lighting for nighttime basketball activities. The basketball striping there is a nod towards just, you know, activities the users of the facility might use during daylight hours, and there's certainly has not been any discussion for, you know, like a tennis court lighting or that type of facility. So
It's just a formal activity area.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Okay, as far as commission members, any other items that were brought up that you'd like clarification from? I think we've addressed the landscaping and the trees quite a bit, but I'm curious to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, there was one comment that said they want written assurance for no access off Atwood. We do have condition number 7, no access allowed along Shamrock. I'm curious, if, you know, why, obviously traffic, you know, the engineer looked at this. Can maybe Jared or Zach, Susan comment on why they didn't put, why the engineer didn't feel like they need to put Atwood in there?
I can comment on that if it's all right.
Please.
At least just to the extent that I'm able to. There's no access allowed from Shamrock. The property doesn't actually have any adjacency to Shamrock. So
right.
That condition was just an assurance that they wouldn't be seeking to get property or access to property to use Shamrock. The property also has no adjacency to Atwood either. And this business complex, this business district, it would be inappropriate for the planning commission, considering a conditional use permit on this property, to try to encumber this property in some other way, the larger business park that it's connected to, but it's owned separately. I don't think you can actually do that. There's no thought to try to do that. There's not been any access granted from Atwood for years, and this particular property can't affect that. And it's a small enough building that, you know, you could say no access will be sought from Atwood or something like that, but I don't think you can say no access or give assurances that this property would never be granted access from Atwood. It's not on the table tonight.
Right. Well, yeah, no, that helps a lot. And the reality is, if the business park, you know, at some point decides that they need access off Atwood, that's a business park thing, not this individual property.
Exactly. And they'd have to request that, and then we'd look at that.
Right, certainly.
Local street, so it's probably not going to be given access to Atwood. That's
right.
But we don't know that for sure, and I wouldn't try to encumber the future that way based on the
I mean, Mr. Chairman, from my standpoint, I actually know a lot of kids who have participated in this program. And just are phenomenal now young adults, and I just think that it's a great project. It's a great community asset. I think it's awesome that we're going to get it in Murray, and I really appreciate their attitude of working with the neighbors, and they're willing to continue to do that. So I guess I just want to say I thank you so much for considering Murray. I think the building looks beautiful. You know, I try to encourage my kids to actually participate in this as well. So
wonderful.
Anyway, thank you.
I think the other concerns that were brought up during the public comment portion, I think we've addressed most of those concerning the trees, the slope of the hillside, and the retaining wall and that. I think they were adequately addressed in our previous discussion. And so I hope that those citizens feel comfortable with that discussion that we had there. Is there any other comment from commission members concerning any of the items that were brought up?
But Mr. Chair,
yes, Lisa.
Before we move past that one topic, though, I agree. I think we all have the same understanding and the same intent, but maybe for cleaning up just slightly. Condition number 6 might need to be restated because it refers to the solid fencing on all property lines adjacent to residential zoning as identified in the staff report. And in the staff report, page 4, we said the subject property will require a buffer landscaping of solid fencing on the east, west, and south property lines. Should we clean that up a little bit?
You certainly can. You can offer alternative language.
I don't know if I should be the person. Does anyone else? Mr. Nay?
Well, I actually just want to have a brief conversation about it. So in general, I don't see any reason for buffering on the east side. You've got the creek there. If they go back to the photo that shows the creek view, you don't see the residents on the opposite side of the creek. I think that it's a bigger asset to not buffer it than it is to put up a wall that's going to temporarily buff. I just don't see any value in that. I think there's some questions about the south property line, because if they elevate the land, that decreases that 6-foot wall that currently exists, or whatever the height of that wall that currently exists. We are requiring a 6-foot buffer. I think if you're going to buffer any place, that's the place that you should be buffering. So I'm just curious on other people's thoughts on that.
Mr. Nay, I agree completely. That's what I was referring to. I don't think we need to require anything on the east side. And I think discussion about the south side, do we require that the applicant put in something, or do we require that the applicant work with a resident to assure that in the end there's a stable wall there, which could mean keep the wall that's there?
Well, I think that, I don't think it's fair to have the applicant work with the neighbors. I think we have to have a definitive solution with, I can see us saying, work with staff to come up with an appropriate solution, but not, I don't want to involve neighbors and developers and so forth.
Mr. Chair, I feel like that, in this case, the applicant has shown a willingness to involve the neighbors, which I think is wonderful, but should not be a condition. I feel like the only thing I would like to see is just to make sure that the applicant works with the city, because as they talk and they look at a little bit more, that there may be some different things. They may come back and say, really, we want to do this or that. I trust the city enough to say if they work with the city and the city signs off on the buffering and the fence plans, I'm comfortable. I personally don't know enough about it to say at this point, yes on this south and yes, no on the east or whatever. I would just say city staff.
Right. Elevations can be modified, and there are a lot of variables in there, right?
Exactly.
And gentlemen, that's why I asked for your verbiage as well. I agree, because I would hate to require the applicant to put a wall on the south side when we would just have two walls running alongside each other. Or rather, the city, work with the city is a good wording. Thank you.
I agree. So if someone wants to take a stab at modifying that, I'm not able to do that, being the chair. So
to me, it's very simple. It's the applicant shall work with the city staff to determine the appropriate location for all required fencing on the property.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, and I'm with Travis. I hate to see any kind of fencing along the creek. I think, it loses its charm when you put a fence there.
Yeah. And so that, by saying work with city staff, I think that covers all of that.
I agree.
As they get in there, they look at it. So, are there any other discussions, Travis? Did we capture the essence? Are you fine with that?
No, I think you're essentially striking the first sentence of condition number 6, and I agree with that. I think that it gives them an opportunity to work with staff. It gives the residents an opportunity to have a voice to staff. So I think that both sides get equal voice in the discussion.
Yeah,
it's rare that I don't want to buffer something, because I'm usually all about buffering the residential zones. But this is one area where I really see it just doesn't seem to require a mandate that we're doing it.
Yeah. No,
okay. Just to be clear, so what I'm understanding, the condition would read, the applicant shall work with city staff to determine the appropriate location for required fencing along, required
fencing period.
Because
buffering along the creek and what? And the other boundaries of the property?
And south and west properties.
Yeah. It's and obviously that's other properties. So I don't know, Travis. Maybe Travis should just do it and make a motion.
Yeah, Travis, will you wordsmith that for us?
Yeah, it's bad, but I'll do it.
All right.
Mr. Chair, I would like to make a motion that we approve a conditional use permit to allow construction of a new building for a youth center or for a youth community center on the property address 346 east south or east 4500 south, subject to conditions 1 through 9 with a modification to condition number 6 to read, the applicant shall work with city staff to determine the appropriate location for the required fencing along Big Cotton for the acquired, I'm going to stick with it, for the required fencing along Big Cottonwood Creek and south and west property lines.
Okay.
I'll second that motion.
All right. I have a motion by Travis Ney, a second by Ned Hacker to, for the Planning Commission to approve a conditional use permit to allow the construction of a new building for a youth community center on the property address 346 East, 4500 South, subject to conditions 1 through 9 as presented to us tonight, with modification to condition number 6 to read, the applicant shall work with city staff to determine the appropriate location for the required fencing along Big Cottonwood Creek and the south and west property lines. Did I get that right?
Yes.
All right. Call for vote, please.
Mr. Ney,
Yes.
Mr. Hacker,
Yes.
Ms. Milkevich,
Yes.
Ms. Wilson,
Yes.
Mr. Woodbury,
Yes.
Ms. Patterson,
Yes.
Mr. Markham.
Yes.
Thank you.
Good luck with your project. This is exciting, and I think it will be a tremendous asset to the community. Thank you for looking to Murray to build something like this.
Thank you so much.
All right. With that, we will move along. Item number 7 tonight is a conditional use permit for Quick Quack Murray. It's a car wash to be located at 5565 South, 900 East. And is the applicant present?
Yes, applicant is here.
Okay, great. We'll hear from you in just a bit after our staff presentation and that. And Jared will be presenting this to us this evening.
Okay, thank you. So this is, as you said, the Quick Quack of Murray, 900 East, 5600 South. It's a new car wash. This is for the site of the current Chase Bank. You can see right here, people usually recognize it as that. This is a Swig and 7-Eleven, Fisher's Car Care right here. And the large building structure you see right here is Olympus Ranch, the retirement community. Just to put it in perspective for you where it's located. The car wash is in the CD zone, as is all the property surrounding it. So the proposed car wash is in CD zoning. Does require a conditional use permit for the new construction and for the use. There aren't any buffer requirements, although there are some buffer landscape elements that we'll talk about tonight, just so you're aware. The site plan is laid over an aerial photograph here. You can see the existing Chase Bank that, of course, will be removed. The tunnel car wash and the building that houses the equipment and everything is all located right here, kind of pushed up against the north property line. The car wash canopy entrance and the little, I don't know what you want to call it, the enclosed outdoor cubicle for car wash employees, the stations here that they work out of. And then you can see the long...
It's their administration building.
That's exactly what that is. It's the administration building. The car wash employee administration building. I think their union is located in there as well. This long piece of property that's associated with it provides an ideal kind of queuing situation. I put the count of the vehicles in your staff report, but it's 20 some odd vehicles that can be stacked up getting into this car wash. So that helps a lot. I know that, just to put it in perspective, you can see the cars queuing in this aerial photograph here around the Swig building. Queuing is sometimes a big concern, and they do sometimes stack out on 9th East and create a problem. I hear about that sometimes. And since I approved the site for the Swig, I get personally attacked regularly. So I was pleased to see the queuing that's in excess of 20 cars here. That makes me very, very happy. It does run alongside the Olympus Ranch building. You can see that. And it's real close to its property line. It's a significant structure. I got some photographs of it, and we'll come back to this in a moment. The other things that you see here, the shaded areas, are canopies. So there are some structures in addition to the main building. But these are the vacuum stations where you clean up your car afterward. The average time, I think I read in the information that the applicants provided, is about 3 minutes going through the tunnel, but then you might spend some more time out here parked. But all the parking for the site is really provided with these vacuum stations, and then with the addition of a couple of spaces here, including an ADA van accessible stall. That is the site plan in a nutshell. In addition to the queuing lines on the outside here, you have an access line to get, sorry, not really an access lane, but an exit lane. So folks could drive up here and then out again. So there are a couple of traffic sort of outlets from the site. So once you're in, you're not necessarily stuck. You can get out if you need to, et cetera. We'll come back to that in a moment too. This is the landscaping plan. I mentioned before, there's not any buffer requirements because it is all commercial development zoning, but we do have a 6 to 8 foot sort of line along here with Olympus Ranch to provide some landscaping and some nice trees in, again, along the other property lines as well, to kind of buffer the site from the adjacency and to provide what we can in terms of buffer here with the Olympus Ranch building. I do want to point out just real quickly and I think I made a point of it in the site plan, but you've got a dumpster right there, that dumpster enclosure. Normally, it is technically to the front of this main building, the tunnel building, and that's an aspect of the site plan that only the Planning Commission can approve. We do recommend it's a good spot for it. It gets that truck that has to pick it up in and out without too much trouble with this location. They're not too committed to the site, and they can travel out.
Well, it also keeps it away from Olympus Ranch too, Jared, so the noise will be minimized as much as possible.
Right, it's perfect. The only real residential in the area is right here, so it's ideally located. Although normally we don't like them in front of the buildings, it's the right spot for it. We feel like as staff. So that's a good point, Chairman. Thank you. The elevations of the buildings. I know it's quarantine time and everything, but I know before that you were out in the public, and so you've seen a quick quack building. This is not any different. These are the standard designs. It does meet the height regulations for the zone. We listed some of the materials that are used. You're going to be familiar with those. The colors are appropriate. They're mostly muted colors with a couple of accents, and that's what we normally would see. There are some photos of existing buildings in your packet. I didn't include them here in the slideshow just for the sake of brevity, but this is a shot looking down from 5600 South, looking down to the north, down that line. And you can see there's a fence here at Olympus Ranch already. This area would be landscaped with some trees in there. This is that line. This would stay a lane coming out of the project, and this would be the queuing lane on the east side there. The photograph to the right, you can see Olympus Ranch. It's quite a significant building. So we'll have some trees in this park or in this buffering area, but again, it's a tall building. There's going to be some visibility onto the site, and there is that visual impact. There's no getting around that really. One other thing to I thought I had another photo in there, but I don't, so I'll go right to the conditions. We do recommend approval of the project. It does meet our codes in staff's view. A couple of conditions from the engineer, having mainly to do with storm drainage and some utility provision, et cetera. They do recycle the water. I'll let the applicants speak to that if they want to, but there's some good sustainability practices going on here, and we can do some more working with them on their LID practices if we're able to do that, the landscaping. The other conditions are all pretty standard. We don't have any hours of operation listed, but this single condition here, operations after 10 p.m. wouldn't be happening. They close before that anyway as a standard practice, so we're not too worried, but we wanted to keep that in there just to make sure it's on record. Do you have any questions for the staff at this point?
Jared?
Yeah.
I guess my question would be, is there a way that we can just combine the SWIG with the quick quack to rectify your error of so many years?
Believe me, I looked into it.
We can just call it like SWIG quack or something, and you have to buy a drink and a car wash at the same time.
That might be $1 million idea, Woodbury.
Well, it's not mine, but I just know that I've probably been the bulk of most of the complaints about the queuing, and I go to SWIG, but it's a pain and it's dangerous. And so I'm really glad to see that this applicant actually has enough to do all the queuing. Because it's just that SWIG location is not a good location. It is not set up. It causes too many public safety hazards. And I think I'm amazed it's even still there because of the queuing. So anyway, I'm really grateful that this one has enough queuing. So
I I have to follow Mr. Woodbury. He's so positive. I also am so negative now, but I'm still a little worried about the queuing, and probably because of my PTSD with SWIG. It's the queuing
there's
there.
so much more. There's so much more room here, Lisa.
Yeah.
I mean,
I drove it this morning. And I completely understand that, but SWIG is such that, and I'm guilty of this. It's SWIG. The line's so long. You're sitting on what is that, 900 East there, and so you go park in the Chase parking lot. When I was there today, there was half, the third of the parking lot Chase was full, and that car mechanic has cars parked in what will be the car wash in the backside. I bring that up because all those will have to go somewhere else or still impinge on the car wash. And I think it has tons of space from that back exit that goes out to, was that 5600 South? But I don't know if people will see it and use it. It's a huge learning curve to get people to take a right on 5600 off the 900 East and go through there.
But we're talking about other developments there, that's independent of the application tonight, and I really think that this application is addressed about as well as any I've seen. I'm really impressed with the traffic flow, and you know what? Those other businesses, if they're utilizing this property, they have no right to do that, and they're just going to have to deal with that.
Yeah, and that was my point, Mr. Chairman, is I'm grateful that the staff looked at this and the applicant took the time to really recognize that 59 or 56th and 9th, they have some challenges. And so I really am grateful, because I feel like that the queuing and those things have been addressed and will be minimized with this applicant.
And Mr. Woodbury, I appreciate what you said. I just want to make sure the record showed that we talked about it in detail and thought about it, because there's a lot of people that think maybe we made some poor decisions with SWIG. So
no, Jared made a poor decision.
Hey, we didn't have any say. We didn't have any say.
It didn't come to Planning Commission, but we still love Jared.
Can I make or ask a question here?
Please.
So why wasn't it considered? And I understand UDOT has say in this, but why wasn't it considered flipping the plan and putting the building on the south side and moving the entrance to the north side to help with the traffic in that area? I mean, that picture right there illustrates SWIG's issues. Those issues are there every single day. It doesn't matter what day of the week. If SWIG's open, there are cars queuing out on 900 East. It does worry me to have two egress points within 10 feet, 20 feet of each other right there, where you have a lot of automobiles going. Is there any reason why we didn't consider flipping the, I understand that it would lessen the queue for this property. It would lessen their queue lane. I get that, but it just seems like maybe that's an opportunity.
My observation, Jared, UDOT does not really want to have any new ingress and egress points on their roads. That's an existing point that's there. And so that's kind of like grandfathered in, and it's a convenient way to redevelop this property. If you're going to go through a process of trying to establish new ingress and egress, it's very tough with UDOT.
I appreciate that. I think that they would be willing to consider a property like this, because we're not adding a net new. We're really just solving one of the problems that they have traditionally had in this area anyways. That's
we can ask the applicant if that has come up when the applicant is before us.
And Jonathan,
you actually decreased the numbers of access to 900th, Travis. They've had access on the north side of Chase and an access on the south side of Chase. So the applicant has actually decreased the amount of access onto 900 West, and the fact that there's a second access to 56th. I think anybody who goes there the first time is going to realize, hey, that's a tough exit to make a left-hand turn coming out onto 900 East, and they'll immediately go to 5600 West, or the second time that they arrive there. But I see your point, but you may have the same issue with Quick Lube to the north. They've got access adjacent to the new property as well.
Yeah,
lower volume, but you do have the similar problem.
And gentlemen, that's exactly. I appreciate that. I support this car wash. I do think we're doing a better job the queuing with this project, and I'm excited about having it. I just enjoy the conversation we're having so the public knows we really think it through. And along those lines, we kept talking about how it's a 3-minute in the car wash. There's a lot of queuing behind. All that timing is dependent on if they could get out of the car wash onto 900 East. And if there's not much space for queuing leaving the car wash, everyone will be backed up still. Is that?
I don't think you're going to ever have anybody willing to wait an hour in line. They have an hour's worth of wait in the queue. I'm not going to wait an hour for a car wash. I'm going to come back an hour later and see what it looks like. And I think most people feel the same way.
Very true.
But even then, Lisa, you've got room for 20 cars to queue off of 56 West to get in. That's
5600 South. Sorry.
Well, I mean, it would take you an hour if you were queuing on 5600 West. So I'd love to hear, the applicant, and maybe some of these things will come up and
right. I think it's appropriate to hold our questions and comments until after we hear from the applicant now. And so I would like to invite the applicant to introduce themselves and provide their name and address and address any of these concerns that you've heard us discussing, please.
Thank you. Yeah, good to be with you. Joseph Ernest, 492 West, 1200 North in Springville. Great concerns, great conversation. It's a great segue for what I can discuss. I guess I'll start out with probably the best news is the conditions of approval we're okay with. We'll abide by them. I've reviewed them in great detail. I've had my civil engineer review them. Jared and Susan have done a great job. They were a pleasure to meet with actually in our initial pre-application meeting. I do want to speak to the queuing because if you're familiar with other quick quacks, you may or may not notice, but this is actually significantly more queuing than we typically enjoy. And it's because the lot itself, in securing the lot, all the land came with it, and which was for us, it's a great thing. And what's going to end up happening, I'm going to kind of try and describe the site plan since I don't have a cursor to point it out to you like I normally would if I was in front of you. But you can see where the canopy is with what Jared described or what you guys talked about, where the employees are drinking swig all the time and meeting the customers. So it's right there. Yeah, he's pointing that out. I want to kind of hone in right there. So right there is where the one of 2 or 3 of our employees who are on site at any given time would meet a customer right there in that canopy. And after that point, we have up to 4 vehicles in the tunnel. And after that point, there's probably another 4, being conservative, another 4 vehicles that would stack before they even enter the tunnel. So before you even get to that point, there'd be as many as 8 vehicles in front of you that are in any stage of about to get their car washed. And then behind the canopy, if we're slammed, I mean, it is Friday at 5 o'clock and everyone's getting home and wanting to wash their car before date night, and they have a babysitter and they're getting ready to go and they wash their car. Even if we're slammed, we're going to be 4 to 5 cars to the south of those canopies. So this should really help you with, especially when you're talking about exiting the site and how that's going to flow. It is going to be a dream for people who don't like lines and don't like waiting in lines. This is going to be a great site. So from the time you're greeted to the time you exit the tunnel, it's going to be about 3 minutes. I don't anticipate us needing most of the queuing off of 900 East that runs east to west. And I also don't anticipate us needing most of the queuing most of the time running off of 5600 from north to south. I just don't think it's going to be utilized very much. But that's strategic on our part as a retail use. It's actually, we found extremely important to secure way more land than we need and provide way more queuing than we need, so people observe that it's a short line. Right. It worked. It's great, and that it's a really important thing. So, and when they observe that it's a short line, they're more willing to enter that line, and we're quick. So, as far as the actual car wash interaction itself, I'm going to speak a little bit more generally, especially with these residences to the east. Quick Quack does a phenomenal job of self-regulating. Over the years, there's 105 Quick Quacks, just so you know, 105. Many of them are right next to residential, even single family homes. I mean, within 20 feet. So QuickQuack has done a really good job of regulating noise and light. And some of the ways we do that is there's, Jared, if you point out number five on that site plan, it's a vacuum, central vacuum, enclosed vacuum engine. So a lot of these car washes, even the ones that compete with QuickQuack, they'll have a central vacuum engine per vacuum stall. It's extremely loud. We don't do that. Instead, we have a single vacuum engine that powers all of the vacuum stalls that's also enclosed in CMU that matches the building, just like the trash enclosure is going to match the building. So this is a sound abatement measure that is just phenomenal and it improves the customer experience dramatically. Also, those central vacuum engines ensure that our vacuums really suck. Jared, you laughing? Lisa, they get you? Yeah. Okay. So, and for your information, I think this is important. About half the customers, after the car is washed, they'll just exit. They won't actually use the vacuum stalls. It's a membership model, so we're getting a lot of repeat users, a lot of repeat customers, which speaks to after you've washed your car once or twice at this location, any one of our customers, they'll understand the site flow. Yeah, there'll be a slight learning curve, but we also have striping on these things that it's really hard to not know what you're doing. And that's on purpose, right? For safety reasons. The striping is just so in your face as far as where you should go and where you shouldn't go. It's going to be an easy and quick learning curve for people at this site. Jared mentioned recycling. We think it's actually the water. We think it's really important. We have 3 reclaim tanks under the tunnel at great expense to ourselves, but it also saves just an absolute large quantity of water. We're only using 28 gallons of water per vehicle on average, depending on the size of the vehicle. And if you were to wash your car in your driveway, studies will say that you'd use anywhere from 150 to 170 gallons of water. So it's a little bit counterintuitive, but if you go to a QuickQuack, if the community goes to a QuickQuack, we're actually saving water. And so we end up reclaiming and recycling about 60% of the water that's being flushed through there with those reclaim tanks that are underneath that tunnel. Other than that, I would say we are super excited to be in Murray. This is an area that we've wanted to be in for a really long time, and we're stoked we secured a piece of property that we think works really well. We think it's a great use for this spot. We think the queuing is well thought out, and I really made a note to speak to, I think it was Travis's comment about mirroring the building. We've done this site plan so many ways that that wouldn't work for making the accesses work with the turning radiuses that have to exist for safety. Also, to the chairman's point, UDOT's equivalent access law, the access being there already is crucial, because we have had a lot of meetings with UDOT over the years, and if you don't have access already, it can be very difficult. In addition, we found it extremely important for the economic viability of our site to have the vacuums be visible, be highlighted and showcased to the public. So for us, this is the only way we can see it working, and we hope you'd agree that this is a great use of this, a great layout. The exit of the tunnel is strategically towards 900 East. That's the loudest point of a car wash, is the exit of the tunnel. And because it's next to 900 East, there's just no way it will not be louder than 900 East. And we don't want it facing the residences to the east or the west. That would be we wouldn't want that. So it's all, believe it or not, it takes a lot of site plans to get it to this point. We hope you agree that this is really well thought out, and it's gonna work really well.
Well, thank you very much for your information. Are there additional questions of the commission members for the applicant at this time? Okay, seeing as none right now, let's open this item up for public comment. And Jared, did we receive anything prior to the meeting from public comment?
I don't have anything, but I did receive a phone call from the Sieberts, who own Fisher's Car Care. I believe they've been in touch with the applicants at some point, or we're going to get in touch with the applicants. They own Fisher's Car Care and the lot behind it here, and there's a gate here that they've used traditionally that they wanted to see about keeping open. We don't have that in the site planning. There is a way to get through their building, I guess, to the back lot. They weren't clear, but I asked them about easements. They said that it sounded like they hadn't been able to turn up any easements in the title work for the properties either. But that was the comment that I received. I directed them to talk to the applicants to see about if there was a way they could.
Yeah, that's a private property issue then among the two.
But that was the comment I received. I don't know if Susan's had more during the meeting or not.
Okay.
There has been none. There's no comment.
Okay. Well, with that, I think we're all right with closing the public comment period at this time and bringing it back up to commission members. Again, if you have need for any clarification or comments, please make them, or I'll entertain a motion if we desire.
Mr. Chair, could I move that the planning, is it okay? Make a motion?
Absolutely.
Excellent. Can I move that the planning commission approve a conditional use permit to allow the construction and operation of a car wash business on the property addressed 5565 South, 900 East, subject to conditions 1 through 8, as stated.
Absolutely, Sue. I have a motion by Lisa Mulkevich, a second by Sue Wilson, that the Planning Commission approve a conditional use permit to allow the construction and operation of a car wash business on the property addressed 5565 South, 900 East, subject to conditions 1 through 8 as presented this evening. Please call for a vote.
Ms. Milkevich?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Mr. Hacker?
Yes.
Mr. Woodbury?
Yes.
Ms. Patterson?
Yes.
Mr. Nay?
Before I vote, if this turns into a swigtastrophe, just know that I had a problem with it, but yes.
Thank you. I'm writing down swigtastrophe and Mark.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. The motion carries unanimously. Good luck with your project. I think this is going to work out very well.
Thank you. Appreciate you all.
And I highly recommend you go and try to do a co-op with Swig so you can get car wash and Swig. It would actually take care of the queuing issues. So, and give everyone a beverage while they go through your car wash.
I like it. Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. With that, we'll move to agenda item number 8, the last item on our agenda. And this is a subdivision project for Van Winkle subdivision amendment at 5502, 5538, 5562, and 5596 South Van Winkle Expressway. Zach, you're on. Are you awake?
No, Jared had to come in and shove me a little bit to make sure that I was still there. So
all right, it's all yours.
Yeah, it's all mine. Hold on one sec. We're gonna try and do it this way again. So hopefully I don't have any mess ups, because that wouldn't be cool. So
He's going to get out of Fortnite before he starts the presentation.
I did, yeah. I was playing Animal Crossing. I can't help it. Okay.
I'm so happy I don't know what you're talking about.
Good, because it's addicting and you would love it.
Yeah.
Okay, back to work. Item number 8, Van Winkle subdivision amendment. This is a request to amend the lots. Oh my gosh, forget it. I quit today. Jared, I need you to switch. It's not working.
I'll have it up in just a moment. Sorry.
You're good. This is what I get for trying things. I push my colleagues too hard to be technically savvy, and then I can't do anything. So, okay.
Just tell me if you want to move forward. No.
Perfect. I will. Thank you. So yeah, located here on 5600 South and Van Winkle Expressway. It's currently occupied by an extra space storage, Vasa Fitness, and I believe a trampoline place all along there. A ton of excess parking. Also at that southeast corner is a Walmart pickup. So it's not like an actual store. You just do you shop online and then go pick up your items there. Okay, Jared, if you'd go to next. It's located in the CD zone, so it's a subdivision, so that doesn't really matter. You can subdivide in the CD zone. So if you go to the next one, please. So as you can see here, it's they would like to subdivide off lot 5 right there. It's approximately a half an acre, 0.56, I believe. The intent is to come back. They have submitted an application for July 2nd for a 7-Eleven at this location. So right now this is just to subdivide the little piece of land off. Like I said, 0.562 acres, lot number 5. Sorry, just verifying a couple things. Jared, if you would go to the next, please. As you can see on the south side, there is a full access from 5600 South, which is where this site will access. Well, this lot will have access, as well as to the north. I apologize, it's on the previous slide. It's okay, you don't need to go back though. That also has an access off Van Winkle Expressway. One is right in, right out. That's the one on Van Winkle Expressway, which is a UDOT road. The other is a Murray Road, and it's approximately 75 feet wide. It's pretty big access. The subject property is largely already developed. It's already been graded and has adequate drainage, things like that, has its utilities. So, and it will go into, as 7-Eleven comes forward, we will be addressing the utilities in more depth here with those connections. So the amended subdivision, as it states in your staff report, does not include any development plans. So I didn't go over the parking at this point because it literally is just creating lines in the property. So you can go to the next, Jared, as well. I don't remember what I did here, but that's fine. You can go to the next one. Couple photos. It was a very warm day. I just sat out there and listened to the radio a little bit. You can see there's not much going on there. Very open. So if you'd like to go to the next one, please, Jared. So city staff is recommending approval of the amended plat for the properties addressed 5502, 5538, 5562, and 5596 South Van Winkle Expressway, subject to the 4 conditions on your screen. Are there any questions that I could answer for you?
Pretty straightforward, I think. With that, I'd like to ask if the applicant is present this evening.
Yes, I'm here. This is Jake Tate with Anderson Wallen and Associates.
Okay, Mr. Tate, if you would give your address and, well, we have your name, so just your address for the record, and then provide any additional information that you may like to, in addition to the staff report.
All right. Yeah, my address is 2010 North Redwood Road in Salt Lake City, Utah, 84116. Also on the call with us today is Stephen Usdan, who's the owner's representative. So if there are any questions directly for the owner, he is here.
Okay.
But not much, like I think you said, it's pretty straightforward. We're just trying to break a lot off so we can get a 7-Eleven developed in here. We have submitted a conditional use site plan package to the city, and that hopefully is coming up here in the next planning commission meeting. And yeah, look forward to meeting all the requirements. We don't have any issues with any of these conditions that have been.
Okay, that was my next question. You can meet all of the conditions on the application for tonight.
Yes, there are no issues.
Thank you. All right. Pretty straightforward, actually. This is fairly simple action, I believe. Do any of the commission members have any questions or concerns?
I just want to say I look forward to lot 6 and 7 coming in. This is a woefully underutilized piece of property.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. It would be nice to see this become a viable commercial entity in the city again. So, all right. Well, with that, since there's no additional questions for the applicant at this time, I'd like to open this item up for public comment, and we'll take a minute and see if we have anyone email in some comments. Jared, Zach, did we have anything prior to the meeting?
Only that was listed in the staff report. I received a few phone calls, especially from the Holiday side. Most of the residents, they were from Holiday, and we're just curious what was going on. They really didn't have. I told them what the application was going to end up being the 7-Eleven, and they were actually pretty excited. So
I would just tell them it's progress.
Yeah, and nobody really objected. They just had questions, wanted to know what it was.
Excellent. Okay. Well, thank you. I'm kind of surprised there were no comments from the neighborhood to the west. They've been pretty vocal in the past when we've had items come up in this area.
Yeah, I really haven't gotten anything really.
Very good. All right. Well, it doesn't look like have we received anything tonight? Okay. I'm going to close the public comment portion of this application then and bring it back up to the commission for any additional comments, questions, concerns, or a motion if you see fit.
Mr. Chair, can I make a motion?
Please.
Make a motion that the Planning Commission approve the requested Van Winkle subdivision amendment plat for the properties addressed 5502, 5538, 5562, 5596 South Van Winkle Expressway, subject to conditions 1 through 4.
I'll second.
All right. That was Scott, correct?
Yep.
All right. I have a motion by Travis Ney, a second by Scott Woodbury to have the Planning Commission approve the requested Van Winkle subdivision amended plat for the properties addressed 5502, 5538, 5562, and 5596 South Van Winkle Expressway, subject to conditions 1 through 4 as presented this evening. Please call for a vote.
Mr. Ney?
Yes.
Mr. Woodbury?
Yes.
Ms. Milkevich?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Mr. Hacker?
Yes.
Ms. Patterson?
Yes.
Mr. Markham?
Yes. All right. Thank you. Motion passes unanimously. Good luck with this phase of your project, and we look forward to seeing you back here soon.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, staff, that is everything on our agenda this evening, unless you've got some additional business that we need to discuss.
I think we mentioned that the meeting coming up July 2nd, there are you've heard a couple items that are coming for it. We have items already for July 16th as well, including, we're not sure exactly when we're going to see, I don't want to say when we're going to see the trip lane subdivision that's on everybody's mind, and I don't want to get angry about it again, but we will see that eventually coming up here soon. They're working on some things. We have Fashion Place West coming to make a presentation to the Fashion Place West Small Area Plan. Zach, aren't they coming on the 2nd? Is that right?
Yes, actually. And while thank you for bringing that up, Jared, because now I'm going to interrupt and tell all of you, if you have not taken the survey yet, it ends on the 20th of this month, which I believe is Saturday. So if you would please share with your friends, family, everyone around the Fashion Place area, if you use tracks, anything like that, please get surveys in. I know at last count we were at about 98. So I'm pretty happy with that. That's a pretty good number for participation, especially for an online survey. So I would like to get more. So please share with friends and family and all that.
Excellent. All right.
One more thing about surveys, just really quickly, and I know everyone's spent a long night, so I'll be fast. There's the Murray City is undertaking for the first time in, I think, 13 years, an update of its transportation plan. So there is a survey right now available on the internet. It's murraytransportationplan.com that you can see what's going on with that plan, and then you can click to take the survey. So please, if you have a minute, all of you do it. It's just a short survey, 6-7 minutes maybe tops, and really interesting. And it's the first time in a long time. We really need an update, and we want to get it right. So plug that transportation plan survey. Tell your friends and neighbors. Make your children do it. Whatever you got to do.
Very good. All right. Well, and speaking of the next meeting, it's my intention right now to ask Commissioner Woodbury, Vice Chairman Woodbury, to chair that particular meeting. So
I will be happy to do that and look forward to it. And
you dress a little bit better, I hope.
I will put a tie. I'll put a tie on.
Okay.
Hey, Phil.
We do have a standard.
Phil, I really think I think you want him to do the one on the 16th. It sounds like that's going to be the fun one.
I know, but I already said we'll switch back and forth. So that's the way
It's fine. That's
the way the agenda explodes.
Yeah, I know many of the people that will be speaking against that, so it's probably better.
Well, you know what? So it's probably good. I mean, I'll know some, but not nearly as many as you for
I know a lot
reasons that I'd rather keep private at this time.
Yeah, no, I certainly know a lot of them, but and honestly, Phil, I'd be happy to chair that meeting if you want.
We can talk about it, Scott. It's not a big deal. We've been through a bunch of those, so either of us can handle it, I'm sure.
Yeah, but for the record, I do need to apologize to Jared for the swig catastrophe. We sure like Jared, and he just made a mistake, and we're just all bearing the brunt. But it's not a personal attack. But as Lisa said, she frequents the place like many of us do, so we enjoy Jared's mistake. But Jared, just don't let it happen again.
No, you can't possibly give me as much crap as I've already taken for that.
Well, it's probably anyway. Enough said. So
when they have so much.
I'm open to a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Meet at Swig, please.
Good night, everybody.
We're done. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.